Hello everybody, my name is Civs and and welcome to the first of a series of interviews that I'm going to be having with some of the professional and also notable players that are coming in from all sides of the RTS genre. So people from the Age of Empires 2 scene, people from the StarCraft 2 scene, people from the Age of Empires 3 scene, and basically an amalgamation of people that are all coming together to play Age of Empires 4. Particularly, I'm going to be talking a lot about Genesis with them and basically what's going to be happening in that tournament. Of course, all of these interviews are going to touch on who these people are and what are they going to be doing in the Age of Empires 4 scene. So, without taking too much more of your time, hope you enjoyed this first interview. There are going to be a couple more coming up in the next few days, and I'm talking with HuT.
So firstly, my name's Nick. My online alias is HuT, and I'm originally a StarCraft 2 player. I started off actually playing the Age series many years ago when I was a young lad. Never really played Brood War or pretty much anything else. It was really only Command & Conquer and the Age of Empires series that I played a lot of when I was younger. I've very fond memories of playing like 4v4 Black Forest in like the Conquerors back in the day. So yeah, that's probably my origins in RTS games. So I've basically grew up with Age of Empires. Didn't really play competitive or anything, like didn't aim to play competitive until StarCraft 2 came out. And I sort of just decided that yeah, I enjoy strategy games, I enjoy RTS games. So when I saw StarCraft 2 coming out, I thought yeah, we'll try and get decent at it, I guess. Didn't really have too many good results like playing at a competitive level for a while, but in 2017 and 2018 I had, I guess, my breakout year. I was the Oceania and Southeast Asian champion for StarCraft 2. I went to WESG in China twice, and then I was a 3-time Team League champion with SYF and my fellow chums in the Southeast Asian region as well. So that's sort of my background coming into AoE 4.
And what are some things that, you know, in general, we can think of as StarCraft 2 as a more established and perhaps stable RTS esports title, and with AoE 4 there are a lot of questions about, you know, what is the scene gonna look like in as it develops. Do you think you're gonna have an innate advantage from coming from StarCraft 2 instead of some of the guys that are gonna be coming from Age of Empires 2 or Age of Empires 3? Do you think that stability and that sort of what StarCraft 2 developed will help you going into this new title? Or do you think it's gonna be kind of ground level for everybody?
It's sort of a tricky question to answer. I like to think that StarCraft players are probably going to adapt better to it. It's sort of hard to like look at the differences between Age 2 and Age 4 and see a lot of similarities. Just they are very different games. I think AoE 4 is a lot faster paced, which lends itself a bit better to StarCraft players, I guess. But there's a lot less like precision things that would make you good in Age 2, like quick walling and stuff like this. But yeah, I definitely think there'll be specific players in Age 2. I actually think Hera would, if Hera committed full time to Age 4, he would probably be the best, just because he has a very like StarCraft outlook on the game, especially in Age 2, because he's probably like the best defensive macro player, which is what the best StarCraft players are. So someone like Hera, or like someone that can play like Hera, would probably be the best. But again, like it depends on how many of the top StarCraft players are going to come over and switch and try out Age 4. And I guess that just comes down to how competitive the scene is. Like if there's decent money in it for them, you might get a few coming over. Like we know Marine Lord probably going to try it out. He's probably going to be the highest level StarCraft player initially switching over. So it'll be interesting to see how he does initially.
So have you been talking with era or any other Age of Empires, be it Age of Empires 2, 3, online, or Mythology players so far? Have you been having conversations about the game and like the sort of strategies that those games have and how they compare with the experience that everybody has with 4 so far?
Not really. It's only really between my like StarCraft friends that we really talk a lot about the game. I'd say we're really good at like theory crafting a lot of stuff with Age 4 already, but I don't really talk to anyone in like the Age scene about the game. I think as StarCraft players, we've got like a very set like mindset on what makes like a good competitive game, which is basically where our big feedback thread on the beta forums came from. We just want AoE 4 to sort of push the envelope for RTS games and try and be as solid of a competitive title as it can be.
I wanted to ask you as well about your StarCraft 2 companions, because as I understand it, you're part of Mindfreak, correct?
Formally, yes.
Formally, all right. So that needs updated on Wikipedia. I'll get on that. So one of your former teammates then is both Scyther and Iagoose, both Australian, of course. And I want to know if you've been having, like, is that the circle of players that you've been talking to? And is there anybody else from sort of your network that you're having a conversation with about Age of Empires 4?
Yep, so it's basically myself, Seether, Igers, Azure, Panda Bear Me, and Chappie. We're probably like the most invested in AoE 4 going forward. And yeah, there's just a lot of like theory crafting stuff that we'll just like post random stuff like, oh, maybe this would be good. Like, it's hard to know before the game's actually fully out and trying to work out stuff like that. But yeah, they're usually the guys that will come together and share builds and just talk about like different stuff in the game. So yeah.
So who of the group came up with, not necessarily came up, but who was the one to say for Genesis, hey, let's go ahead and join this tournament? Was it something that like everybody sort of knew and then you all joined up? Or was somebody that brought up to everybody's attention that, hey, there is a 20k tournament for Age of Empires 4 in November, we should all get on it?
I think it was Panda Bear Me originally who highlighted it to us. I think I'd seen something on Reddit about the post, but he sort of like gave us the link for the Discord and stuff like that. So that's probably where it started with.
So we know that from the seeding, there is going to be a little bit of seeding given to other RTS players. Of course, the best seeding is going to be left out for the top players in the ladder for Age of Empires 4. How much do you all think you'll push for that better ladder seeding compared to using that time to do something like a boot camp or just playing with each other and making sure that you have solid strategies? Because the expectation is that at the very least there are going to be more than 120 players, so that means that you guys are likely to be spread out on the bracket, giving you the opportunity to practice with each other and not go up against each other necessarily. So how much are you guys going to be valuing the idea of playing in the ladder to get that better seeding for playing and practicing together, since you know each other, you can help each other out in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, ladder you obviously get much more diverse like matchups and like skill checks, that sort of thing. You never really know what you're going to face when you're going into ladder, whereas playing custom games, you can always be like, okay, I want you to longbow rush me like 20 games in a row, and I want to see like which is like the best response to holding it, that sort of thing. I think initially it would be a lot of custom games, and then once you've sort of got an idea of how you want to play a certain situation out, you would spam it on ladder and then see how that sort of stacks up, and then you just come back and then be like, okay, well this worked, but then there's this other thing I want to work on. So yeah, it's definitely like a massive advantage to having a solid group of people you can rely on to like ask for advice, or if there's anything in particular you need to work out the details for, like can you actually hold like the RAM all in, that sort of stuff. Just throwing that as a question to the guys. and seeing what they can come back with for you. But I think it would be a mix of both a lot of custom games initially, and then just spamming ladder until you sort of hit a brick wall and you can't really work something out.
Great. And I want to ask you now about where you think you might finish in Genesis. Obviously, the answer a confident person would say is, I'm going to win it. But I think that there is a lot of, things that we don't know. It's going to be the first major tournament. So I want to know, which position would you be happy with? Is a top 4 something that you would be happy with? Is it top 8? Where do you see yourself thinking, okay, I made a good effort for my first major tournament in a brand new game?
It's sort of tricky to answer. I mean, I'd probably just be happy with top 64, to be honest. I mean, some people might be surprised, being that I was 6th in the closed beta, but I mean, it's a brand new game. Like, there's a lot of people going to be playing that like, people wouldn't have heard of me, but there'd be other people that we haven't even seen maybe play age games that could surprise everyone. I'd like to think the StarCraft boys would do pretty well across the board, but again, like, it's a very different game from Age 2, which is where I think the majority of the competitive players will migrate from. So yeah, like, I would imagine top 64 I'd be quite happy with, just seeing how I played. But yeah, I'd be more interested in seeing if a lot of like the theorycraft stuff that me and the boys have thought about is actually correct. Like, is England actually just default the best civ? Can you actually just control the entire tempo of the game with them? We'll find out next month. So
indeed. And there's going to be this qualifier period, and then everybody's going to have a week to get ready for the main event. And, you say you're happy with the top 64, that sadly wouldn't qualify you for the main event. But let's say that in the case, that you get into that main event and that you have this week period to develop your strategy against another 15 players. What are some things in your mind that you think you're going to need to be able to do? Because we know that from the qualifiers, people are going to mostly need to play one civilization really well and then play a second civilization acceptably enough to win 2 games, right? But then in the main event, you're going to need to step that up. So how are you prioritizing your theory crafting that you were talking about? Is it just going to be, I want to be a beast on something like HRE, which has shown that if there aren't any major changes, is going to likely be a very powerful civilization to play? Or are you going to be thinking more in the way of, well, what civilization counters which, or which sort of build orders I can get away with in those best of one that might be a little bit cheesy, but at least they are going to get me through the games safely? What is the prioritization in there?
Yeah, like, I guess it's similar to Age 2, where you want to be good across multiple civs and just have the option. I think the 3 civs that I'd probably look at maining, I guess, would be England, HRE, and Abbasid. And I guess Mongols will be sort of your flex pick. Mongols seem to be the most out there of all the civs, but we'll wait and see how they actually play on release, if they got changed from the closed beta or anything. But I suspect like a lot of players will be pretty good with the majority of the civs, and there'll just be a few civs that aren't really touched. Like, I don't think Delhi will be played at all. That civ just seems horrible. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, a defensive macro player like someone like Hera is probably just going to be the best like type of player at the start of a game like this, because I think all-ins are probably not that good now if the TC actually like has 7k HP, which it didn't have in the beta. Like, could be wrong, but it seems like a very strong tool for actually defending the all-ins if your TC just refuses to die now. But yeah, we'll see. Like, I know aggression and all-ins are generally like really strong at the start of like a new game, but I think people are going to really figure out AoE 4 quite quickly in comparison to like other games. Like, I think the player skill level across the board is just so much higher, and we haven't had like a good new RTS for like 11 years or whatever since StarCraft 2 came out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who can adapt the quickest and work out what the best like playstyle is.
What would you say your playstyle is like? Because you were talking about Hera's playstyle and how you think it will adapt well to Age of Empires 4, but I want to know yours and what you think about your own playstyle and putting it into Age of Empires 4.
I'm actually really YOLO. Like, I have I think I'm very like timing attack orientated. I'm very aggressive usually. The defensive like macro style I never really enjoyed playing in StarCraft 2. I played Terran, so you definitely had to remain aggressive throughout the majority of the game. But yeah, it definitely comes down to like the different Civ matchups, I guess. Like with Mongols, you definitely want to be aggressive early on, trying to just get damage done and putting pressure on the map. Whereas someone like England, like you actually can just play greedy with England, and we saw Lucifron playing 2TC quite early on, which I don't think you can actually punish that if it's executed well enough and you're on top of your scouting. So yeah, personally I'm a aggressive timing attack based player, but I definitely look forward to working out like the more macro subtleties of Age 4.
And if, who do you think might end up winning it? Or, at least the top 4. Which players do you see, at least from now? We are a couple of weeks out from release, we have limited information, yada, yada, yada. But in your hearts of hearts, who do you think is the likely to put their name down as the first Age of Empires 4 Majors winner?
Well, yeah, I mean, like we got King of the Desert coming out, so that's like really the only conflicting event, I guess, for the Age 2 guys. Like, how much would they actually commit to Age 4? I think they could definitely play a bunch of Age 4 and probably do well, even if they're focusing on King of the Desert. Yeah, like if I had to pick someone, it would probably be like Hera. Just to contrast with like Viper's style and how I see Viper's style, I think Viper would be a lot more like, he would work the game out a bit better, but I think Hera's like macro abilities maybe like a tinge better from what I've seen in Age 2. Like Hera just comes across as a very like I said, a very StarCraft like traditional macro defensive player. So I'd be surprised if he was actually committing to playing Age 4 a lot, that he wouldn't do well. But yeah, like there's so many random players that maybe we haven't even seen play in the closed beta that just come out and stomp everyone with something. But yeah, it'll just be interesting to see.
And who do you think from the StarCraft 2 sort of category has the best chance at getting really, really far in the tournament? I know that there are two brothers that are taking a little bit of a 0.1 and 0.2, but even between those two, who do you think might have the advantage?
Well, I actually saw Lucifron streaming, and I asked him like about what he was doing, and like he was literally just playing 2TC longbow, like defensive play, and then he's telling me that Vortex was just playing like ram all in. So you've sort of got like the yin and yang of brothers there. One's just playing defensive macro, and the other's just going YOLO all in. So I don't know. I think Lucifron was better in StarCraft 2. I don't know like how they compare in War 3, but I'm Terran biased, obviously, so I would imagine Lucifron will do pretty well. I guess Marine Lord as well. I think he's top 4 now in the current ESL season for StarCraft 2, the tournament that's going on right now. So I can't see how he wouldn't do well. I think he's the highest rated StarCraft 2 player from Age 2, so I think it's like 2100 or something, maybe a little bit higher. So yeah, I'd expect him to do pretty well overall. I'd be surprised if he doesn't go deep.
Nice. And final question now for everybody who's watching: where can they see more of your content? Are you gonna be streaming? Are you gonna be talking about the game? Where can people find out more about HuT's content?
Yeah, so I think I will be streaming pretty consistently on Twitch_HutAU. No, HuT_AU, sorry. Probably be streaming a bunch of games on release over there. And yeah, hopefully the practice will pay off. definitely looking forward to having like a new RTS to work out. It's always fun when there's like something fresh and cool to play. So yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So thank you so much, HuT, for taking the time to talk with me today. Of course, you in the audience, if you want to see more of what HuT is going to be doing, you can go ahead and check the description for all the links to his socials, both Twitch and Twitter. And if you want to see more interviews like this one, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. You can also leave a like, a comment. All of those things, of course, help. And you can find more information about Genesis itself in the description as well. So all of that info down right there. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, HuT, for the interview. Hope to see you soon.